Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val.
And here we are. This is our first episode of year 3 of Movies That Make Us. Can you believe that we've done this for 2 years together now? Holy cow.
Val's put up with us that long.
That's the miracle.
Oh, you guys.
And they've been 2 very different years. The first year was very different than the second year.
Right? And this year I feel like it's like each season of our show has been very different in the world, which is actually kind of cool. Like we didn't plan it, but each season's going to be different for us because the world is crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to go back and listen to these because it does chronicle a couple of very interesting years. And so, and hopefully this year will be interesting in a very different way than last year was interesting in a very good way. So, okay, excuse me. I have to help my son get logged into
That's what 2020
please talk
was
amongst
all
yourselves
about.
while I do.
We're all doing that work/family, reality.
But yeah, what's that?
I said we're all dealing with that family/work reality, so we understand.
Yes. All right.
Oh,
Good dad.
God.
Oh, I like how have a bitey.
You like that she has a Spidey? Yeah, she's a big Spider-Man fan.
Thank you. Over the next couple weeks, there will be more Spidey. By the way,
Ooh.
I brought all of my movie posters and all of my stuff from my storage unit. So I have
Nice.
I have another one.
Oh wow.
Ooh, that's cool.
And then this is one of the coolest things that my ex-husband ever made me, and it's gonna go up, but he painted that for me.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's gonna
That's
go up.
incredible.
So I've got that, and I've got like movie posters. I'm like, Dave, you can have this one wall over here for your thing, and then I'm gonna need this whole wall for work, and then this one, and then that one, because I have all this stuff. I forgot that I had the Civil War poster from the movie, like the big banner that the movie theaters hang out, because I was still working for Disney at the time, and I'm like, where am I gonna put that? Maybe in our bedroom? Like, where is this going up?
One of the things that I've really appreciated about my wife is that over the years she has really embraced my geekiness, and so we were able to start moving some of my nerdy stuff into the bedroom. Like this wall is in our bedroom, and I've got like at the head of our bed we've got a bunch of different travel posters from different places, from movies and books that we like. And so it's kind of cool. So hopefully you find, hopefully Dave's okay with the Civil War poster in your bedroom and, embracing that.
I don't think he cares, honestly. But our living room, it's in the middle of the house where we share with everyone. And he has traveled all over the world. So he has all of these flags from like Ireland and Scotland and all these things.
Oh, wow.
And he wants to hang those in there. And so it'll be interesting to see like my dad's reaction when we start putting like our stuff in the main area.
Flags of many nations.
It's going to think it's become the UN in your family.
It's just the UN with all the good accents and angry people, really.
That sounds a lot like the regular UN. Lots of accents and angry people. So, wow. Well, this is it. We are starting March. We're doing our March Madness this month, talking about some really kind of offbeat, different movies. Somewhere in that mix, we're going to be doing a special live episode where we will be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, because there's been so much madness about that movie and hype. And is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder in the DC extended universe, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So
right. I just read today the synopsis that is said to be legit, and it sounds legit about the second and third movies that he had planned. And I'm with you, Jake. I am not. I like Zack Snyder, kind of. I loved Watchmen. I love 300. A lot of his other stuff doesn't work for me. but I'm going in and giving it a shot. So we'll see.
I do anticipate it will be better than the cut of Justice League that we've had for the last couple of years. And the biggest reason why is I just believe that it's hard. Like Solo, I think would have been a better movie if it hadn't switched directors partway through toward the end. And I think Justice League would have been a better movie if it had either been Zack Snyder's or the other guys whose name we don't say anymore because he's gotten into some issues and stuff. But yeah, I think it just doesn't work when you have somebody, especially two very different styles, come in and take that. So I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
To see what it's like. So I'm trying to go in with an open mind with it, even though, like I said, I'm not typically a big Zack Snyder fan with the DCEU. So, but I could eat crow. Who knows?
Sure.
I'm willing.
Yeah, I might. You guys know I've been very vocal about I don't understand how it could be totally that different and much better. But this is the thing, and I know this is a super unpopular opinion, and we'll talk about it when we get into that episode a little bit more. But I actually kind of liked Joker, Jared Leto's Joker. But what I think happened is that the way they edited that film and re-edited that film, we only really got to see a total of 3 minutes, I think, of his character total in the movie in Suicide Squad. And so we didn't really get to see all of what Jared Leto did with that character and how dark, because I believe the Joker is a super dark and super psychotic character. And I like Jared Leto as an actor. And so I'm excited to see him in this movie because he wasn't in the other one, in the original cut.
He's that was filmed just now. Yeah.
So now he's in the Zack Snyder cut of that. And I if I know this correctly, they filmed like hours and hours of the Joker scene, doing different scenes for Suicide Squad, and it just didn't make it in the movie. And so that's why we don't understand his, like, people like, I don't understand why he was doing this and doing that. And he just looks like, you know, a really jokered out Kevin Federline, whatever. Like, I get like, but for me, like, I really liked the direction he was going with it because it was a kind of Joker that we'd never seen before. I don't want to keep seeing the same Joker over and over and over. So I was very intrigued by this different kind of Joker. I just wish that they wouldn't have re-edited Suicide Squad to be a music video, and we would have gotten a little bit more of an actual story, actual depth to that movie. And so I'm very interested. I might eat my words because I've been just kind of crapping on this Snyder cut for a long time. But I mean, I'm intrigued. It might be better, but I don't know.
We'll give it a shot.
That's all we can do.
I don't know.
And I just want to go on the record now as saying that it might be better, and I think it will be better than the Justice League cut that we have, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. So I just want to throw that out there.
I actually rewatched Justice League like 4 or 5 days ago, and I still feel really sick. Like, my stomach still hurts a little.
Yeah.
I liked it better than Batman versus Superman, which I loathed that film.
So
I thought that film was awful.
I have heard a lot of people say that the director's cut of Batman v Superman, and I think they've got the ultimate cut or whatever on HBO Max right now, is better, and it fills in the holes, and it's a much better movie. So I tried starting to watch that the other day, and I haven't gotten very far into it because it just brings back those traumatic experiences of watching
Martha.
the original. Yeah, exactly.
Martha.
And so maybe it's better, and that'll give me hope for Justice League. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm interested, and I think if we're talking about a month of movies that are a little bit offbeat, a little bit different, a little bit of madness behind them, I think it's a great fit for that. So I'm excited to do that live. And so we will let you guys know when that's going to happen so that you can join us on Facebook and on YouTube and submit comments. Let us know when our opinions are completely off base and wrong. It's fine. We're grown-ups, and for the most part, we can take it. But no, it'll be fun to be interactive because I do think that there are a lot of opinions and feelings going into this there's not a lot of people that are just lukewarm about it. So I think there will be a lot of opinions after it comes out. So it should be interesting. And today we've talked about Zack Snyder. We're talking about directors today as we do our staff picks. And as we are going into March Madness, we wanted to talk about some directors who are known to be a little offbeat and a little bit different, and pick 3 films from their repertoire of films that they've done. That kind of represent a little bit of their madness and a little bit of their offbeatness. So Tracy, why don't we start with you? I don't remember who we started with last month, but we're going to start with you this month. I think we started with Val last month. Yes. So we're going to start with you, Tracy. Yep.
I got some heavy stuff this month, friends.
Okay.
But so I went with a director who I feel is one of the most unique visionaries, one of the most unique directors with his point of view. Somebody who doesn't compromise his vision, and has some very controversial and unique and interesting films. And I went with Darren Aronofsky.
Okay.
So he is. So the 3 films that I picked, and these 3 films were released right in a row. He started off, well, before we get to my picks, so he started off with the movie Pi. It became a Sundance critical acclaimed hit, kind of became the talk of Sundance. That led him into the film Requiem for a Dream, which deals with substance abuse, and that got all sorts of attention. And then we move into my first pick, which is one of my favorite films and one that I feel like we should probably discuss one of these days, The Fountain. The Fountain stars Hugh Jackman. It's 3 separate stories told over 3 different time periods. It is the story of a conquistador in Spain who is searching for the tree of life in order to let his queen live forever. Then we have the modern day, and he is a cancer brain tumor research specialist racing to try and find a cure for cancer as his wife is dying from cancer. And then we have a future where a space traveler, Hugh Jackman, is traveling to a dying star in order to bring the tree back to life in order to regenerate it. Incredibly beautifully, lyrically, visually stunning. And the thing that I think is so interesting with him is he has this vision of this cosmos and this future that we're setting it in. And they came back with a quote for like $10 million for the CGI. And he's like, there's got to be a better way to do this. I don't have the budget for it, but I don't want to dilute my vision. So he got together with a guy who takes drops of water, and then he has a special microscopic camera, and he injects different dyes and different particles into these drops of water. And because you're watching gravitation, you're watching some of these physical aspects to them, it creates this really bizarre, otherworldly, space-like effect. They filmed all the effects for that for like $65,000. And the results are amazing. They're beautiful, beautiful shots. But it deals with life and love and letting go and rebirth. And it's just absolutely, it's a really poetic film to me. To me, that is cinematic poetry. Then we move into, have you guys seen it?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I have not seen The Fountain, believe it or not.
It's been a while, but yes, it's not one of those movies that you watch over and over, but I've seen it like 3 times, but like in a spanned out time periods.
Mm-hmm. And it's one that I think that depending on where you are in your life, you'll find different levels of meaning to it. I felt like rewatching it now, because I hadn't watched it in probably 3 or 4 years. I'm a different person now than I was then, and so I got different things out of it. But just a beautifully told story.
I remember when it came out, and it seemed like it was one of those films that was very polarizing. You either thought it was brilliant and amazing, or you didn't like it at all. And it seems like there are a lot of people that are in those 2 camps, and not a lot of people that that aren't. But I think just from the synopsis that you gave, the fact that you've got this kind of time travel-y piece to it, or going through three different stories in three different times, and you got a guy who's traveling through space and all, it sounds very otherworldly, but at the same time, I know it was very critically acclaimed. The music is fantastic from what I understand. It was nominated for a lot of awards for the music.
Goosebumps.
And so
I thought of the score just now and I got goosebumps.
I would love to talk about that one on the show sometime and find an excuse to have to go watch it. In fact, I've heard it's popped up a couple of different places over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, why did I never see? I need to go see that one. So that's a great pick.
Really, really, really interesting stuff. And that's the thing with Aronofsky is you either love the piece or you hate the piece. His latest film, Mother, which had, what's the actress's name? She was Mystique in X-Men.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, thank you. I haven't seen Mother, but I have heard a lot of people not like that movie.
I didn't care for it.
I haven't seen it. So, but that's the thing with him is he has such a vision of what he wants, and he's not willing to compromise in order to make it more popular. It's like, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
I think it was definitely a movie that was challenging for the actors, and I appreciate that. It just wasn't a movie for me. And again, he does make movies that, depending on where you are in your life at the time, you may not like it at that point of your life, and so you may want to come back. And when Mother came out, I was like, I don't need this kind of drama right now. Like, I don't need whatever is happening here. Like, I don't need that in my life. And so, when I had to screen it, I was just, I respected Jennifer Lawrence, and it was some hard character acting for sure. But it wasn't something that I would be like, hey, you know what we should go watch tonight?
It's Friday night. Let's pop on Mother. Yeah. And that's kind of how all his films are. The second film that I picked is actually probably his most mainstream accessible film, and that's The Wrestler. This came out after The Fountain. Mickey Rourke plays a professional wrestler who was huge in the day. He was this big. They had like a Nintendo video game, and his character was the star. He lived this big, glamorous life, and now it's 20 years later, and his body is broken. His spirit's kind of broken. He's got a broken family. Just this kind of husk of a man, even though he's still huge. He's still a big guy. But he's doing these wrestling matches where it used to be in arenas, and now he's doing them in these high school gyms or, these tiny little areas. He has to take a job working at a deli counter in order to try and make ends meet. He's trying to re-establish his relationship with his daughter. Just a really, really beautiful character piece. This really is a character driven film. There's not a ton of plot. It's about this character and about his experiences, and based on the friendship with Mickey Rourke. And after reading the script, Bruce Springsteen wrote an original song for the film called The Wrestler. And whenever you have Bruce Springsteen adding a song to your soundtrack, that's a pretty good sign there, But that one's probably his most mainstream, his most accessible. Marissa Tomei is fantastic in that film. There is nudity in the film, so no one know that going into it. But great work.
And I think that was the film that really brought Mickey Rourke back onto the stage again. Like he had kind of just not really done a whole lot. And then he was, I believe, even nominated for a lot of acting awards for The Wrestler. And, that's what led to him being in Iron Man 2. So we have The Wrestler to thank for Whiplash and Iron Man 2. So I don't know how I feel about it totally, but The Wrestler is an amazing film, and it does peel back a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't really know about professional wrestling. You have this idea that when you're super successful, that you're kind of set for life. And a lot of them that were super successful were not. And that's why they continue to go on the indie circuit and do these kind of wrestling matches. I think there's scenes where he's having to cut his head so that he, he's using blades and stuff so that he bleeds when he's out there, and his body being broken. I mean, it just brought a lot of the realism to wrestling that people don't know that happens behind the scenes. So
yeah, he needs to take steroids because he's an older guy, but he still has to be in this massive physical shape. So he's taking steroids, he's taking painkillers, he's got like just all these issues, because these guys, when they're wrestling, especially back then, they didn't have health insurance, and they didn't have, if you get injured, you go to the hospital, you taped it up and you went back out there.
It hasn't changed.
That's
Most
true.
of the wrestlers in the WWE right now are signed on as independent contractors, so they don't have to give them insurance. So they are on their own for insurance. They're on, like, it is, people don't get it. It's not like being an NBA star or an NFL star. It's very, very different. And so, yeah, this film, I love The Wrestler. Great movie.
Nice. And then moving
not
into
one that you would put on for a good time either, though. Just so you
true. And that's the thing. That's why
film.
I'm like, okay, we're going heavy on this one. We're going heavy with this director this month. But I like films that challenge me. I like films. Yeah. I'm all for popcorn flicks. Don't get me wrong. I am all for the action adventure and the explosions and all of that. But I do like films that challenge me and that make me think about things afterwards. I love having conversations like this after watching a film, leading us into the third film in this trilogy, if you will. Again, released right after The Wrestler, a year or two after. We've got Mila Kunis, we've got Natalie Portman in Black Swan. And this is the story of Black Swan. It is the story of the ballet told through a cinematic perspective. A young girl lives with her mother. She's trying out for the ballet. She gets cast as the White Swan. In the part, the director is pushing her to embrace more of the dark side, become more of the Black Swan. It's a very psycho film in terms of psychological. There's questions about, because Mila Kunis comes into the company and she gets the role of the Black Swan and is kind of the backup. And there's questions about whether or not she's real. Whether she's imaginary and part of Natalie Portman's character's psyche. It's not, of the three, it's my least favorite, but powerhouse performances from Natalie Portman. She is a very underrated actress. We forget, because we see her in the prequels of the Star Wars films, we forget this girl can flat out act. And the moments that she goes from pure joy to just the pain in her eyes. She does so much with her eyes in this film. And that's the other thing that I love about Aronofsky is, love him or hate him, or love or hate that film, he gets performances out of his actors. He really draws out what he needs from them.
Yep. I was just thinking that same thing, because we've talked about two films now where really he brought performances out of actors that you didn't expect, like Mickey Rourke and then Natalie Portman. I mean, this was,
and
again,
Hugh Jackman.
And Hugh Jackman is another one. I think, again, Natalie Portman, like you said, she was known for the Star Wars prequels, and that was really it. And this really was the thing that people looked at and said, oh, Natalie Portman can actually act. And not that she didn't act in the Star Wars. Yeah. Not that she didn't act in the Star Wars prequels. I'm not hating on the prequels, just to be clear. But not to the same level that she did in Black Swan.
It's a different type of acting.
Yeah.
It's a different type of acting that's required. And to be honest, the scripts, in my opinion, for the prequels just didn't give the actors much to hang on, you know? And then not included in the picks, but I had never actually watched it all the way through. And the other day while I was working, Noah with Russell Crowe was on the Sci-Fi Channel. And I'm like, I've seen bits and pieces. I've never seen the full thing. I ended up liking that a lot more than I thought I would.
I liked that movie a lot more than most people thought. There's just so many things that he makes you question in that film beyond what people think it's about.
Right.
And it pushes you past your comfort zone, that film. I know a lot of critics were like, it just wasn't well made, it wasn't realistic. I'm like, it's not realistic. Like, were you there? Do we
Yeah.
have, like, other than the book,
You
do we
know,
have documents on, like, so for me, I loved that with Noah, and this is one of the things I've kept from the movie stuff I get. I actually have a water poncho. Like, it's a big poncho from
Oh.
Noah, because if they're wet the whole movie, like, it's just raining the whole time, right? So I have
Right.
this like, and it's like really nice water like raincoat from Noah, and it's in my closet. But
That's some
yeah,
very interesting swag. I like
yeah, like
that.
that's what they sent out to us, is they sent us rain jackets.
Like usually you get
Water.
posters, but a rain jacket, that's cool.
Yeah, from No Man Land, they sent me like a license plate and like a window shade for like my car, so that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I just for Noah, one, I thought it was really good performances by the actors. But I just think the questions that he put up in that movie, like what you have to pick over your family or over your beliefs. You know what I mean? Because if you're a person that believes in something, whether it is your community or religion, or, something that you feel so passionate about, how far do you go? Could you
mhm.
choose that over a family member, or over your family member's happiness, or over your community's happiness? And so it really pushes those lines with, okay, like, I know that this is being told to me that this is the right thing, but I feel this thing over here. Like, it's just, there was a lot of struggle in that movie, that I think that's why people didn't like it, is because it made them look at themselves and look at what they believed in and question. You should always question what you believe in. If you don't, I don't believe that you believe in it if you don't
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
And there's
Uh,
like 4 chapters in the Bible for Noah. It's not a big
yeah,
story. So
yeah. So
there's
they
to
really
fill a 2-hour
expand
movie.
on the characters and what they
Mhm.
and who
Mhm.
these individuals are like, and what their contributions are, and how they react with each other, and what's going on. And I'm glad that they showed that struggle, because I don't think it would have been super easy, right? Like,
No,
you've got a guy and he's like, so hear me out.
it's going to start raining, and it's going to rain a lot.
We can't take everyone with us.
Yeah.
So basically, you're all gonna die, and I'm getting out of here. So see ya. Yeah.
After I round up some animals, it's fine.
Yeah.
I can bring these snakes, but your buddy next door, he's gonna have to stay home.
It's just the way it goes. I've got my orders. This is what I've got to
Sorry.
do. So
Yeah, so I
Um,
actually I enjoyed this film and the struggle, and the cinematography of Noah was actually
Mhm.
fantastic, the coloring and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And just again to reiterate what Jake said, check out the score to The Fountain, especially the song "Death Is the Road to Awe." That piece of music, it's so repetitive, but it just builds and it changes slightly, and then it builds, and then it drops down way low. Listen to it with a good pair of headphones. Don't just listen to it in your computer speakers. Really find some good headphones and listen to the dynamics of that song. So there's my staff picks. I figured he's kind of a crazy director. He's very offbeat. It fit into March Madness. Again, heavy stuff, but if you want some interesting, thought-provoking films, check out Aronofsky if you haven't.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. I think those are some great picks. And
Yeah.
like I said, The Fountain has popped up a couple of different times for me recently. So this is just another sign that I probably need to go watch it. So, which is awesome. My pick, we're going to let you go last this time, Val.
Woohoo!
Save the best for last.
That's good, because I broke the rules with my picks. So,
Rules? We have rules?
I mean,
We've like loosely had guidelines. Yeah.
Are they?
So when I think Offbeat, one of my favorite directors is Tim Burton, and so that's who I picked for this. And he's got quite a wide variety of films that he's done. And I wanted to pick him because I do think people pigeonhole him into a certain look and a certain style. And part of that is when you watch a Tim Burton movie, oftentimes you can tell it's a Tim Burton movie, but he tells very different stories when you look at his whole catalog of movies. It ranges from Pee Wee Herman, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure to like Big Fish to, Ed Wood. And there's just a wide variety of things that he's covered
Ed Wood.
And done. Yeah,
I love Ed Wood.
Yeah.
And while all of them, when you sit down to watch a Tim Burton movie, you get that essence of Tim Burton in it. They're all very different stories. And I just think he's a very imaginative and very creative director. I didn't pick Ed Wood as one of my films but it is an amazing film, and I think everybody should check it out.
Bill Murray. I'm sorry, but the scene where he's getting baptized and they're like, "Do you reject Satan and accept Christ as your savior?" He's like, sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that what you need me to do right now?
Which is the most Bill Murray response to something like that. But I feel like what Tim Burton does is he's a modern day fairy tale storyteller. I think he takes these concepts that we have in fairy tales and he brings them into kind of a modern retelling, and then in a very Tim Burton way. And I think one of the movies that he's done that really demonstrates that is Edward Scissorhands, which is one of my all-time favorite, not just Tim Burton movies, but just movies in general. It's a very, very similar to like a Beauty and the Beast type story, but it's got a lot of commentary on, society today and this outward appearance and keeping up appearances and being able to look beyond that. And even though it seems like such a dark film on the outside and very gothic looking film, it's got a very good message and a very, I think, heartwarming story and great performances from the two main actors, Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder. I just feel like it's just a solid film from start to finish. And it's got some great comedic moments. I mean, him with the waterbed, everything that you could think of with, if you've got scissors for hands, it plays into that really well. And I love, the mother figure in this who takes him in and she thinks she can fix his scars with all of her makeup and they try to get him to fit in to this society. And what makes him brilliant and amazing and awesome is that he's so different from everything that's in this cookie cutter society. And as a kid who I wasn't nowhere near as strange as Edward Scissorhands, but as a kid who felt like I didn't necessarily fit into the cookie cutter look or style or feel of the society that I grew up in, that was comforting to me. And I think everybody feels like an outsider sometimes. And so to have a story where in the end, you're appreciated for who you are and for those differences instead of just fitting in, I think is a powerful story.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I remember seeing that in the theater as a kid and being like, what am I watching? Didn't quite get it. My sisters were like, oh, Johnny Depp is so beautiful.
Which is a weird film to say that about Johnny Depp because he's not, but whatever. This wasn't Johnny Depp.
He's so innocent, but I've grown to appreciate it later for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could see that as a younger male going to the theater and watching it with your sisters, like, this is not for me because it is a love story.
I was a Star Wars kid.
Yeah, exactly. So I can totally see that.
The future. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is totally different than that for sure. And I love that this is the movie that came out right after he did Batman. Like, this is the one that was released right after Batman.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot that.
Yeah.
So, and Batman really put him on the map so that he could kind of just say, this is what I'm going to do. Without the success of Batman, Nightmare Before Christmas wouldn't have happened because he went to Disney before he had worked for Disney as an animator, presented Nightmare Before Christmas, and they're like, this is not for us.
It's a little dark.
And then Batman happened and they said, hey, we would love to do Nightmare Before Christmas if you want. and the reason and Nightmare Before Christmas is not on my list because he didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas. I think that's important. But the reason he didn't is the second movie on my list, which is Batman Returns. That's why he didn't do Nightmare Before Christmas as a director, but produced it instead. I love 1989's Batman. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I love Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I think it's a great movie. I really feel like with Batman Returns, because of the success of Batman, they kind of just said to Tim Burton, okay, do what you want. Batman, they had the reins on. It was definitely, the studio had their say in what it was going to look like and what it was going to feel like. Batman Returns was very much a Tim Burton film, I think, more than Batman. Just in the look and the feel and the characters, but it's also very brilliant. I think to date, this is the best Catwoman that we've had on film. I mean, it's close. It's between Michelle Pfeiffer and Halle Berry, but I think she just edges her out by a lot. Michelle Pfeiffer's brilliant.
It's close,
in this.
But she edges her out by a lot.
I couldn't keep up the facade. All right,
I like Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, but yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, on the big screen is the best Catwoman for sure.
And I think Danny DeVito as Penguin was brilliantly cast. And what I love about this is neither one of them are the really main villain. It's really Christopher Walken's character that's the main villain and the main bad guy. But this, I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like Batman Returns as much as Batman, but for me, I was like, no, this is like pure Tim Burton telling a superhero story, and I'm all over that. Like, I just love the look and the feel. And I mean, really, because of the mixed reviews, that's why we end up not having him come back for Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And, those turned out so much better. But I really like Batman Returns. I like the story. I like that you get the backstory of Penguin and who he is and how, he's really kind of
the backside of Penguin, which I can't get out of my mind. Like, every time you say it, I just see Penguin's butt.
Yeah, which was not attractive at all.
Daily? You see that daily?
If you say Penguin, like if you say his character, that's the first thing that comes into my mind.
Is the Penguin butt. Yeah, I can understand that. But I love how you set him up as this character that is kind of the opposite of Bruce Wayne. Yes, he came from a rich family, but he was raised by circus freaks in the sewer and everything else, but he should have the same inheritance that Bruce Wayne had. And anyway, I just think it's a great story, great storytelling, great development of the characters. A lot of superhero films have kind of tried to copy this, where you've got multiple villains in the film instead of focusing on just one. But I think this one does it better than almost any of them out there, because you still get a complete Catwoman arc. You get a complete Penguin arc. And it doesn't trample the story either. So Batman Returns, I think, is underrated, and I think it may be between Batman and Batman Returns, I probably prefer it a little bit more. So
interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that, to be honest. I haven't watched that since the theater, so I should go back and check that out. I think it's on HBO Max, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got all the Batman ones on HBO.
Yeah, okay.
You can even watch Batman and Robin if you really
bat nipples.
hate yourself. Yeah, if you want the bat nipples. George Clooney should have been a much better Batman than he was.
Should have been great.
I don't get it.
I think if he was George Clooney now making that film, because he knows he has more control over what happens in a movie that he's in. And I think back then he was just so happy to be in this film that he didn't question anything and he didn't push anything.
If I remember right, I read an article once where he said that's one of the very few films that he regrets, because he feels like he did not bring. He's like, the film, whatever the film is whatever the film is, but he was not happy with his performance and his contribution.
He didn't really question what he was being told to do. He just did it because he just felt so lucky to be there, and instead of like doing his job, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third film that I've got is a very different one. It's his animated film, The Corpse Bride, which I'll be honest, it's on here for purely selfish reasons. I love the film, but it's on here because,
buddy.
Yeah, exactly. But when I think of Tim Burton, this is a film that my wife and I watch on Valentine's Day. We watch it at Halloween time, because this was a film that we went when we were first dating, and we went and saw it. And it's the first time we held hands. And so it's always one that reminds us. Yeah. It reminds, it's like our love story. Not really, because neither of us were dead. Like, but it was a romantic film that we went and saw together, and it reminds us of our love story as it's growing anyway. So, but it's a great film. Nightmare Before Christmas was produced by Tim Burton, looked very much like Tim Burton. He had a lot of say and control over it, but this was really him directing this animated feature. It's the same style of animation. It's a very different kind of fairy tale type story about love and the importance of, that relationship. And you've got two very awkward people in the two main characters that are going to fall in love. And then you've got the corpse bride, and it's just all great. It is just so pure Tim Burton. The music is fantastic because, of course, Danny Elfman's involved in the music. You've got Johnny Depp doing some of the voice acting. Like, it's got the whole cast of what you expect in a Tim Burton film, a modern Tim Burton film. And it's just fun. It's a great little Halloween feature. But you can watch it anytime. So that's my third pick.
Nice.
I like that Burton has. He's like an auteur. He's got his own style, his own vision. Like you said, that it's a Tim Burton film when you watch it. Which I love that you can carry that type of thing all the way through your career. And like you said, it's a Tim Burton film, but within that genre, it's almost like its own sub-genre. Like there's all these different levels of films and storytelling, like you said. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. And that doesn't even touch on, you've still got Mars Attack. You've got Sleepy Hollow. You've got just
the Demon Barber.
Yeah, I can't think of the name now. Oh my gosh.
Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, there it is. Sweeney Todd. And just so many different, you've got Big Eyes, like there's just so many, so many different films to choose from. But yeah, you do definitely know when you're watching it, this is a Tim Burton movie. I will submit one of the things that he's just so dark and gothic. He's not. His films and his stories actually are not. They may look dark, but when you watch them, they're very optimistic and very positive more often than not.
It's just the aesthetic. It's like when people say that people wear black all the time. Oh, they're dark. They must be really sad all the time. No, we just like black. Like it's just our aesthetic, but we have nice things to say.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes. Exactly. And plus, Danny Elfman, without Tim Burton, Danny Elfman wouldn't be the film composer that he is today. And I think he's done some incredible scores with Tim Burton and even aside from Tim Burton movies. So anyway. All right, Val, let's hear your picks that don't follow the rules.
Here we go.
I'm not following the outline of the three movies, like picking three specific movies. But my my favorite offbeat director is Robert Rodriguez.
Nice.
So I love him. And a lot of people have seen more of the stuff that he's produced than he has directed. But he kind of has these three different sections of film directing. He dabbles in a lot of things, which I love. So in like the mid 90s, he had, Desperado, which I love, 4 Rooms, and From Dusk Till Dawn, that all came out in the same year. Like literally all came out in 1995, 1996, you had Desperado, 4 Rooms, and From Dusk Till Dawn. And these movies are so great. Like I love, right now vampires are really in, so let's make a vampire movie with From Dusk Till Dawn, but it's not
your typical vampire film.
It's Robert Rodriguez
and different.
And then you have 4 Rooms, which is all of these crazy stories of these different people that happen in this room. And what I love about him is with 4 Rooms, it was kind of a Tarantino-esque movie, but in a way that I can digest it, because I was going to pick Tarantino. I respect Tarantino's work and what he does as a director, but I don't love his films. They're not necessarily all for me, but I respect what he does. Whereas you have Robert Rodriguez, where his mind works in a similar pattern, but I can actually digest his films, right? It's not It's not just blood for the sake of blood. It's not long for the sake of being long. And Desperado is just great. If you haven't seen the movie Desperado, you need to go and see that. But then we move into the 2000s, and he does Sin City and Grindhouse. And I'm not a huge fan of Grindhouse.
Right.
And Sin City is not a movie that I can watch all the time, but what he did with Sin City
Yeah.
is crazy cool. Like just the black and white effects, the fact that this was, a superhero movie that's not a superhero movie. But in that same time period, he does Spy Kids. I have watched Spy Kids so many times with Sammy. Like we love Spy Kids. You've got his weird off the wall humor and storytelling, but in a way that families can sit down and watch it together. I don't know, do you guys like Spy Kids? I don't know that I know a person that doesn't like Spy Kids.
Yeah, it's one of those films that when you just see the previews or you're not familiar with it, you haven't seen it, you're like, that's a kid's movie and I'm not interested. But then your kids make you watch it and you're like, okay, if I have to sit through a kid's movie, that one was enjoyable.
Exactly. It's just it's got this oddball, humor and oddball characters everywhere. And he does have a very specific styling, just like the other two directors. He has a specific styling to the coloring of most of his films, especially during the late 1980s and early 2000s, when even if you go from Spy Kids to Four Rooms, to Sin City, he's got this very specific look to the films that he does, but he also pushes himself. And then he does Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yes.
Which I have to say, this is one of the most underrated movies that there is out there. I think Once Upon a Time in Mexico, it's a weird love story.
It is.
It's just this weird love story. And I would have to say that Antonio Banderas probably wouldn't be the actor that he is. And Danny Trejo wouldn't have the money and the pull that he does if it wasn't for Robert Rodriguez, because yes, they were both well-known actors before Robert Rodriguez, but what Robert Rodriguez did for Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, Johnny Depp is in this movie, Mickey Rourke is in this movie, Eva Mendes, Danny Trejo, Enrique Iglesias, he gives them
everybody.
He gives them storylines that he pushes them, and he allows the audience to see where they can be pushed, where I think, Antonio Banderas was in Zorro. We all enjoy the Zorro movies, but what he keeps doing, I think Antonio Banderas is kind of like Johnny Depp to, your pick, Jake. Antonio Banderas for Robert Rodriguez is fantastic. And honestly, Antonio Banderas has been in other movies, but I think my most favorite of his movies are Robert Rodriguez movies.
Well, and you can tell that they've got that kind of relationship because the fact that he could go to Antonio Banderas and say, I'm doing this spy movie for kids that's going to be at the point that Antonio Banderas was in his at the point that he was in his career, he could have very easily been like, that is not, I'm not attaching myself to that project, but because he trusted Robert Rodriguez, he was in. And I think that matters.
I know we've done Dusk Till Dawn together, and I know we've done Machete, and I know we've done all, but how about we do this Spy Kids thing? And because he is so good at what he does, people just say yes. But I love the fact that he doesn't just do films, just like the cinematographer that I chose. She did a lot of things outside of films. She also did TV shows. Is that Robert Rodriguez also does short films? Like he did a short film with Demi Lovato, which was very thought-provoking. He also did, some things. My phone's ringing. Sorry. With Lady Gaga, he works with people that like to think outside of the box, and he's not beyond doing shorts or, out of the box things. And I would have to say, yes, I'm going to jump from these big movies that we've all seen, and we haven't talked too much about the movies like we have with yours, but because I want to spend most of my time talking specifically about my last pick. But I have to say, I just love the fact that you can look at his repertoire of directing and producing. He is a huge producer of things. Is that you can look. Yeah.
I was just going to say, he has helped so many people from the Latin America and Mexican community in terms of his cinematographers, a lot of his behind the scenes people, he tends to hire minorities, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And I love that about him, because if he sees something that is intriguing to him or a person that is intriguing to him, he doesn't care about the Hollywood aspect of it. He's like, you know what? I want to get in there and do that. I want to see what this person can do. This intrigues me over here. I want to see it. Like, for somebody to pitch Sin City and for that to work, again, it's not one of my favorite films, but I really respect as a filmmaker what he did with Sin City. And immediately when I say the word Sin City, what do you guys picture? You picture, a very specific scene or shot from the film.
It's a Frank Miller comic book brought to life on screen.
Right.
Yeah, which is incredible. And the same black and white feel and look that the comic book had. Yeah.
And I honestly think if Sin City would have been made last year instead of in 2005, it would have gotten more recognition than it did.
I could see that. Yeah.
And
but at the same time, I think it's one that helped pave the way to see that you can take these great stories from comic books and make them into great, powerful movies. And it's one that probably doesn't get the same recognition that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man gets or whatever, but it should, because it really shows us, it opens the door for the Dark Knight trilogy being made and things like that, because it's a much more serious, gritty story than a superhero story normally is.
And anybody who can take Elijah Wood and make him creepy as bleep, well done.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I'm looking at his timeline, and the reason why I respect him so much, and I think it's because me as a person, I don't ever want to be put in a box of this is what you do. Right. And so when I look at his timeline just from 2010, he directs Machete. He directs the TV series Women in Chains, which if you have not seen that, it's really cool. And then he did the Jetsons.
I didn't know he did the Jetsons.
He did the Jetsons, and then right after that, he did Spy Kids, and then he did Nike, the Black Mamba, and then he did a couple of other behind the scenes things before he did Matador TV series, where he did a couple of things, and then he went on to do the Demi Lovato Confident video short. So just jumping all over the place. And then I know I did the review for Alita Black Battle Angel, and I didn't give this movie a high grade. I think it was a C+ or a B-, just because I didn't feel like I got everything I needed to out of the film. But as far as the directing of the film and the storytelling of Alita when it was being made, I do respect the film. But what I really, really want to talk about is he directed one of my absolute favorite episodes of The Mandalorian, and that's chapter 14, the tragedy, when they bring Baby Yoda, which is not the child, to the planet. They put him on that rock in the middle of everything, and then Boba Fett comes in and there's the huge battle. That was directed by him. So, and that's one of my absolute favorite episodes. And you can tell that it is a little bit him if you know him in the way that he does storytelling, and he likes to do this conflict, but with other stories going on at the same time. That's most of his movies are okay, there's a conflict over here, but then there's a story going on over here, and then they're all going to come together. And if you haven't seen chapter 14, the tragedy for The Mandalorian, you definitely need to check that out. But I think Robert Rodriguez, I don't think that we've seen all from him that is the best from his directing yet. I think he's produced more well-known movies than he's directed, but I love that. I love that he's okay stepping aside as a director and saying, you know what, I may not be the right person to direct this film, but I want to be a part of it, so I'm going to help get it made. But I love From Dusk Till Dawn, Machete, all of those. They're great. I don't know if I would put them in campy films, but they are.
They're tongue in cheek for sure.
But they're very well made, and they're so much fun. But they're dark and they're gritty, and Salma Hayek is hot, and she's in almost every single one of his movies, and she's hot in all of them. So
oh yeah. Well, and I love the fact that they took George Clooney and
Yes.
that was the height of his Sexiest Man Alive, and
Well,
they
because
give
that
him
was
this
the edgiest role for
these
him at the
hand
time.
tattoos and make him such a dark, awful. He's a mass murdering character who
Yes.
gets caught up in a strip club that turns out to be full of zombies.
And his movie
Like you do.
posters are my favorite. Like if you just go Google Robert Rodriguez movies and all the movie posters come up, like I would just like to have a room of just his movie posters. But they're
That
just
would be cool.
there's just he just has a very specific look at the world that as you watch his films you kind of get to live there for a minute. I mean, when you're watching Spy Kids and you have like these thumbs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like what the crap is that?
They are so creepy. So creepy. And weird. But it works within the context of the film.
One of the things on the Mandalorian, if you watch the behind the scenes making of series, that Robert Rodriguez goes up to Jon Favreau and he says, typically 1 page of script is 1 minute on screen.
Mhm.
This is like 20 pages, and I shoot fast. I edit fast. This is going to be like a 15-minute episode.
Yeah.
So are you okay if I expand the action? And Jon Favreau goes, that's exactly why I want you to direct this episode.
Yeah.
Because when I'm watching it, as soon as the action started taking place, when Boba Fett starts opening up his can,
Yes.
I was like, this is Robert Rodriguez. Like he's such a
You
good
can tell.
director of action.
Yeah. Yeah, his action. That's why I like him. Again, his brain, he works a little bit backwards in filmmaking, just like Quentin Tarantino. But unlike Quentin Tarantino, I think that it's less about himself and more about the film. And he is quick. His editing is quick. His scenes are quick. He is very much. If somebody can't understand what you're trying to say in a minute or two, then that probably shouldn't be in the film or in the project that you're making. And I love the fact that he can say so much in so little time and you understand it, you comprehend it. And the character development that he can do in one scene, like in Desperado, when you have Antonio Banderas walk into this bar and he sets down his case and he sits there and he doesn't say really anything. And it seems like the longest time, but I think maybe it's 30 to 60 seconds on camera, but you understand something going to go down in here. Like, I'm just like, something's going to happen just because he shoots it so quick, but it seems like such a long period of time, but just the shots of the eyes to the case, to his hands, to, the other guy's eyes. And you're just like, okay, like something's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going down. Well, and I think he made that movie for like $19,000 or something.
Most of his early 90s movies and into
crazy
the
low
mid-90s,
amount.
It's not big budgets. And, again, because he can shoot so quickly and he understands, how to tell a story. Like if he was if you've ever been to film school, like they make you make 8-minute movies and you have to understand how to tell a movie or tell a story in such a short period of time. I bet he just aced that, where all of us are struggling. No, I need more time to like just drag this out, but I bet he was like, okay, well, mine's 3 minutes and it's like a masterpiece, like he can fit so much story and so much character development in so short of period. That's amazing to me when we live in a world right now when everybody's trying to make a 3 to 4 hour movie and he doesn't need that to tell the story. I admire it. Like I admire the fact that he's like, let's just tell it. I don't need my ego behind it. I don't need, all of stuff. And I bet it was really hard for him for the Mandalorian to say, okay, we got to create some action here because he doesn't like to fill his movies with fluff. Everything needs to have meaning and everything occurs for a purpose. And so I know that was a lot of movies to throw at you if you haven't seen it, but what I would tell you is I couldn't pick just 3. But I picked time periods is that if you have some time to watch some stuff, like start in the mid 90s with Robert Rodriguez and watch his stuff and then kind of move up into the 2000s. And I really think that I don't think his movies, they age really well as well. Like I could watch Desperado today and I wouldn't feel like I was watching a movie from the mid 90s, I would feel like, oh, if I hadn't seen it, when is this new? You know what I mean? I mean, Antonio
Mhm,
Banderas
mhm.
obviously is older now, but how would you know? Like nobody's seen him
Yeah.
lately, so it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the only one that you might catalog is From Dusk Till Dawn. That one kind of is a 90s
It is a
film to
90s,
me, but it
but
is.
it's still watchable today. Like you would
Oh,
still enjoy it.
absolutely.
You would still enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The tongue-in-cheek humor in that one. Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, Selma Hayek. That's a good. I'm a big fan of Robert Rodriguez. Good choices.
All right. So there we go. We've got 3 different directors. We will put the choices that we made and the movies that we picked, or the time periods that we picked, in our write-up for this episode, so you can go check out those films. In the meantime, please come back next week as we have more offbeat movies that we're going to be talking about this month with March Madness, and then keep an eye on our social media when we announce when we are going to be doing our live episode about Zack Snyder's Justice League. It comes out March 18th. So spoilers, it will be after March 18th, so that we all had a chance to see it. But you'll definitely want to keep posted for that. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to like and subscribe, whether it's on the podcast or on the YouTube channel. We always appreciate that. And we won't see you at the movies. Bye.
Bye.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.